I wanted to get an idea of what it would feel like to have restricted movement, to be ageing in a similar way to the way that my mother is. So I've stiffened up some gardening gloves using some pieces of cardboard, and I've also restricted one of my knees using a piece of cardboard and some masking tape. I don't want to trivialise disability. I know it's about a lot more than stiffness. It's certainly more than can be emulated using pieces of cardboard and gardening gloves. But it will give me some idea, just as the simulation suits that some designers wear give them some idea of how it is for an elderly person to get into a car or to perform other common household tasks. I thought I'd just have a look around the kitchen at work and see how things are when your movement is a little bit restricted. I'm going to start by picking up a bottle. Now just picking it up feels a bit weird. The top of this bottle has actually been opened before, so it's not too bad to open. However, it's dependent upon the fact that these two, the finger and thumb, are quite flexible, albeit they've lost a little bit of sensitivity because of the gloves. If I try and open that, it's reasonably okay, but it would be tricky if I hadn't already used that bottle. Likewise, the jar. I know from my own experience that jars can be really hard to open, even if you're able-bodied. This one has been opened before, but I can feel the exertion that would be needed if it were only a brand new jar and there was an air seal in there which would have kind of stopped you being able to turn it straight off. In the cutlery drawer we have some tricky little items. I think actually using a knife could be quite challenging if your hands are stiff. Just that being able to get your hand around and to get it in the right position, I think that could be really difficult. The tin opener I think could be very hard as well. You have to clamp the thing onto the side of a tin and then turn the butterfly screw so that it works. That movement is an awkward one, and I can already feel a little bit of discomfort down my arm, and really there's no reason for me to feel discomfort other than a little bit of resistance from the gloves. Similarly, I think the corkscrew could be quite a tricky manoeuvre. I've got the taps here. This tap is actually quite stiff, and we even have trouble as able-bodied people turning that on. It's a little bit too small, not very easy to get a hold of, and it's just quite awkward. Here's the microwave, and I think if the sensitivity of my fingers were diminished, I might find that pressing this button and turning this knob would actually be quite challenging. Oops. Of course, it isn't the same as having the disabilities for real, but even just doing this little exercise gives me some idea of how it might be. I'm going to see how it is to sit down in an easy chair with a knee that won't really bend. I'd really like to understand why it is that my mother has difficulty with low chairs. I know intellectually that it's to do with her restricted movement, but I'd really like to get a feel for that, to have a better understanding of why that is, and possibly what's in store for me later in life. So I'm just going to try lowering myself Now I'm already finding that because I cannot bend that knee, I'm relying on my arms to ease me down. That really was putting quite a lot of pressure on my hands, so had they been painful or hurting at all, that would have been really quite tricky. My other knee was taking weight as well as I lowered myself down. If both knees were bad, I would find it much harder. Ease myself back. And I can understand why, when you're elderly, you don't necessarily want to get down into a low chair any longer. Getting up, I think that's going to be even trickier than getting down, or at least it would be if my knees were painful as well as just stiff. In order to get up, again, I'm relying on my arms to lever me up. I've got to inch my way forward, try and get my feet in a position which feels as if it's going to help me to be stable when I get up, and then I've got to try and get myself up. That movement that I've just had to perform to get myself up is so reminiscent of the movements that I've seen my mother do as she's got up from chairs which are a little bit too low for her. I suspect that I've seen the future